"This section is first class, sir." The flight attendant didn't whisper it. She didn't smile either. She just stood there, blocking the aisle, arms crossed, chin tilted, and said it loud enough for 2 rows to hear. Dr. Malcolm Reddick paused. He didn't blink, didn't look around. Just reached into his blazer and handed her his boarding pass. She took one glance and frowned like it had insulted her. "I'll need to verify this," she said flatly. "There may have been a mistake." Behind her, a white man in a charcoal suit leaned over to another passenger and chuckled. "It always happens when they try to sneak up here." Malcolm heard it. So did she, but neither of them said a word about it. "Tell us where you're watching from, because what happens next, it'll stay with you." Malcolm didn't argue, didn't flinch. He simply tapped his left cufflink, a small, silver square with a barely visible blue light. To most people, it looked like nothing. To one system, thousands of miles away, it meant everything at 8,000 feet above Europe, 31 minutes later. 4 international airports were suspending Sky Blue's access to executive gates. 2 more were uploading legal advisories, and not a single flight crew on that alliance knew yet. But for now, back in Frankfurt International, Gate B24, Erica had called a second attendant over. A man holding a company tablet appeared beside her, tapping nervously on the screen. "We're just working through something," he said. "Seat 1A's been, reassigned?" "To who?" Malcolm asked calmly. The man blinked. "That's not something I can share." "Because I don't have clearance?" "No, sir, it's because I don't look like someone who belongs in 1A. A sharp silence fell. Erica's jaw clenched. "That's not what anyone said." "But it's exactly what you meant," Malcolm replied. 10 minutes ago, Malcolm had passed through priority screening, cleared digital verification through global access, and arrived at his gate 2 minutes early. His boarding pass was QR sealed with biometric match. He didn't request Seat 1A. He was assigned it by an AI system that calculated hierarchy, clearance, and ethical trust score. A system he personally designed. But she didn't know that. They never do. Passengers were watching now. A few phones were out, angled discreetly but obviously. One woman in row 2 leaned forward and whispered to her partner, "He's being so calm." And he was. Too calm. Erica stepped back, then returned with a gate agent. A new woman, young, flustered, red lipstick bleeding at the edges. "Sir," she began, "we apologize, but due to a last-minute operational shift, your seat has been reassigned to business class. It's still a premium experience." "Is that printed anywhere on my ticket?" Malcolm asked. "No, but did the shift affect other passengers?" The woman hesitated. "No, just yours." Malcolm nodded once, then quietly said, "Begin route lock observation, full cabin audio and behavior capture." He wasn't talking to them. He was talking to the invisible system listening through his cufflink. Inside a monitoring room in Geneva, a red icon lit up on a glass wall screen. "Live incident detected. Sky Blue T742. Flagged by route authenticator. Simone Duran, Global Ethics Director at Etherlink, sat up straight. "Reddick's in motion," she whispered. "God help whoever triggered it." Back on board, Malcolm moved aside wordlessly. He walked to row 10 in business class. Quiet. Collected. But everyone in first watched him pass. Every step sounded like a question they didn't dare ask. In the cockpit, a soft chime beeped. The captain frowned. "Skygate Nexus just pinged us," he muttered. "Route auth?" His co-pilot stiffened. What the hell is Skygate doing on this flight? They'd find out soon enough. 2 rows behind, a black teenage boy in headphones leaned to his mother. Why didn't he tell them who he is? His mother, maybe early 60s, sharp gray streak in her curls, smiled softly. "Because men like him don't need to tell." Malcolm looked out the window. Below them, Europe was shrinking into cloud. Above them, a storm was forming. Quiet, calculated, unstoppable. And it had just begun. For most travelers, Skygate Nexus might as well be science fiction, a fancy term buried in fine print or a random buzzword airline staff toss around when things go wrong. But for those in the upper echelons of aviation infrastructure, Skygate is sacred. And today, one man just pulled the master switch. 30,000 feet above Europe, the hum of the aircraft masked a silent protocol now unfolding beneath every digital system linked to Sky Blue Transatlantic. As Malcolm Reddick sat calmly in business class, sipping water with the same ease as someone checking a watch, the cabin didn't know that 6 airports were on the brink of shutting Sky Blue out entirely. He hadn't moved. He hadn't raised his voice. He hadn't even asked for his seat back. But what he'd done, tapping that cufflink, speaking just 3 quiet words, was already rewriting the rules of global air travel. Back in Geneva, inside a quiet operations hub lined with glass walls and algorithmic dashboards, Simone Duran, ethics director at Etherlink, was already up from her seat. Her eyes scanned the route lock alert on the live Skygate feed. Passenger bias protocol breach, section 3.2.4, she muttered. Authenticated by Malcolm himself. She didn't panic. She didn't blink. She simply gave the order. Initiate phase 1. Audio extraction, timeline capture, real-time behavioral mapping. Every word from that cabin, every frame from its cameras, and every variation in tone and facial expression was now being scanned, logged, and stored. Not for review, but for action. A few rows back, a boy in his early teens leaned toward his mother. "Is that the guy they made move?" His mother nodded, barely moving her lips. "That's him. But he's not doing anything." She smiled faintly. "That's exactly why he's dangerous." Malcolm's calm wasn't silence. It was system design in motion. 23 years earlier, he'd been the one on the other side. Young, grieving, humiliated at an airport for daring to look out of place in a suit. A boarding pass torn, a funeral missed, and a dignity shredded in front of strangers. They thought they were ending something that day. They didn't know they were building something else entirely. Skygate Nexus wasn't created to punish airlines. It was created to prevent what happened to him, to measure equity, dignity, and fairness at the gate. But when those measurements flagged misconduct and nobody listened, the protocol escalated. Today, it had reached its highest level, route lock. Route lock wasn't just an alert. It meant that the final authority, the one person who certified gate access systems across 21 nations, had witnessed an ethics breach in real time and was preparing to act. Back on the plane, Erica, the lead flight attendant, was staring at her tablet in confusion. "I think the system just reset," she said aloud, frowning. Her crew partner leaned over. "What do you mean, reset?" "Cabin clearance just failed sync. It's saying, suspended access." "Did you press something?" "No, I don't think I did anything." Malcolm didn't even look her way. He didn't need to. The moment they told him, "You don't belong here," they triggered a cascade that no PR apology or coffee voucher could fix. Below, in Geneva, Simone reviewed Sky Blue's last 6 months of service data. 2 previous bias complaints marked as unverified, a sharp drop in internal ethics score, and a pattern of reassignment involving non-white first-class passengers. It was a pattern, one that just collided with someone who had the power to expose it. By the 10th minute of the route lock activation, 3 of the world's top airports, Frankfurt, JFK, and Incheon, had already begun pre-suspension procedures for Sky Blue's crew credentials. Gate access, priority landing clearance, automated bridge sync, gone, frozen. Back in New York, Sky Blue's corporate legal team was in chaos. "Who's the route authority on this one?" someone asked. "Reddick," came the whispered answer, and the room fell still. He wasn't just a VIP. He was the compliance auditor for the very digital system that powered their fleet's clearance through international skies. Someone at the back finally whispered, "We're going to lose access." They were wrong. They weren't going to lose access. They had already lost it. On the flight, Malcolm quietly adjusted the cuffs of his shirt. No drama, no warning. His silence was louder than any confrontation could have been. He closed his eyes, letting the moment settle, not for revenge, but for truth. This wasn't about his comfort or his ego. It was about sending a message to every airport, every airline, every uniformed gatekeeper that no one gets to decide who belongs based on skin color, suit style, or where someone's seat happens to be. Simone reviewed the incoming audio files, capturing Erica's exact words. "This section is first class, sir." The tone, the posture, the scoffing laugh from the other passenger, all time-stamped, all submitted. And now, a 47-point charter Malcolm had drafted 3 years ago but kept in reserve. The Global Passenger Integrity Charter was finally being attached to a live case. Simone looked across the room. "Prepare the rollout." His signal just made it real. Up in the sky, Malcolm looked out the window at the clouds folding beneath the wings. They thought they were escorting a man from first class. They didn't realize they were walking themselves out of the sky. The plane hadn't even landed yet, and the dominoes were already falling. At Heathrow, the automated clearance system flagged a mismatch between Sky Blue's incoming crew credentials and their global access score. It wasn't a glitch. It was a lockout. Gate 37B went dark. A jet bridge assistant tried again. Error 319. Gas compliance suspended. Entry denied. Across the terminal, a blinking red bar appeared on the master screen. Sky Blue Transatlantic, temporarily delisted. No one panicked. Not yet. But the word started to spread. Quiet, sharp, and heavy. Something was wrong, and not the kind of bad weather wrong. This was structural and deliberate. At JFK, it hit harder. Terminal 4 was in the middle of prepping for Sky Blue's daily premium arrival. The gate manager had barely zipped up her jacket when a system admin leaned over. "G98 just triggered a cascade lock." "What kind of lock?" "Full shutdown. No biometric sync, no clearance path." The gate manager blinked. "Who authorized it?" The tech didn't answer. He just turned his monitor, and there it was. Route lock. Origin, Reddick, Malcolm A. The gate manager exhaled. Slowly. Heavily. Oh, hell. Mid-air, Malcolm hadn't moved an inch. He was still staring out the window, watching nothing in particular. Clouds, maybe. Or maybe something deeper. The past. The silence around him had shifted. He could feel it. The energy in the cabin was different. Softer. Hesitant. A few passengers had clearly figured it out. A man in row 12 was whispering into his phone, one hand covering his mouth. 2 others had subtly angled their seats toward Malcolm, as if proximity might offer protection, or maybe insight. But Malcolm didn't speak. Not yet. He was still letting the system speak for him. In Singapore, a notice pinged inside the finance department of JAL Holdings, a key Sky Blue equity partner. The message was brief. Sky Blue GAS delisted route authority activated 1.8 in cross-airport contracts under immediate review. One of the executives, an older man named Koji Takeda, paused mid-sentence during a Zoom call and muttered, "Reddick." He turned off his mic and ended the meeting. Back on the plane, Erica tried her tablet again. Still no access. She leaned toward the cabin phone to call the cockpit, but it buzzed before she touched it. Incoming message. System-wide service suspension alert. Route lock confirmed. Coordination disabled. Please contact Sky Blue HQ directly. Erica's hand trembled slightly. This wasn't just a tech issue. This was the kind of message that only appeared once every few years, if ever. The crew chief approached her with a whisper. "What's happening?" "I don't know," she lied. But in her gut, she knew exactly what was happening. Someone very powerful was sitting in business class, and they had just shut down her entire airline from the inside. In Frankfurt, the Alliance of Ethical Aviation Systems, AEAS, flagged a cascade violation. 3 linked airlines, all associated with Sky Blue, had failed automatic re-verification of their Sky score, triggering temporary access freezes at 6 Tier 1 airports. An executive at the FAA watched the chain reaction spread through real-time dashboards. Sky Blue, Transatlas, Vero Lynx, all frozen. A low-level analyst turned to her supervisor and asked the only logical question left. What does Malcolm want? At that exact moment, Malcolm pulled a slim folder from his carry-on. Inside, 3 copies of the Global Passenger Integrity Charter, each copy individually signed, encoded, time-stamped. He'd waited 3 years to release it. Each clause addressed a different layer of bias, dignity erosion, and gate-level profiling. From how flight attendants are trained to interpret passenger-class cues, to how biometric boarding is often skewed by tone and race data. It was a document designed to rewire the very concept of customer service on a federal level, but nobody cared when he first wrote it. Until now. Now, they'd beg for it. His phone buzzed. Encrypted line. He pressed the side of his glasses. Go ahead, Simone's voice came through. We're live in Zurich. Do you want to push the charter now? He waited 5 seconds. No, he said quietly. She paused. No? Not yet. Why? Malcolm's gaze didn't move from the clouds. They're not desperate enough. Back in Washington, D.C., the Secretary of Transportation had just been briefed. Her Chief of Staff handed her a 3-line memo. Route lock authorized by Dr. Malcolm Reddick's Skygate Nexus activation confirmed across 6 airport jurisdictions, 1.8B and related contracts suspended as of 1:43 UTC. The secretary lowered the paper and asked softly, "Why wasn't I told this earlier?" No one answered. Down in row 14, a teenage girl turned to her mother. "Mom, is that the man who—" Her mother gave her a look, a soft, warning glance. Then she nodded. "Yes, baby, that's him. Is he gonna do something?" Her mother didn't smile. "He already did." In Manhattan, the CEO of Sky Blue had just landed from a separate flight. His phone lit up with 12 urgent texts. All said the same thing. "You need to call Malcolm Reddick." He stared at the screen, then deleted the messages. Pride, stubbornness, denial. The kind of pride that gets airlines grounded. On board Flight T-742, the pilot's voice finally came over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We've just been informed of a temporary gate reassignment at our destination. Please remain seated. There is no cause for concern." Malcolm allowed himself the faintest smile. No cause for concern? Tell that to the 6 global airports, now reviewing whether Sky Blue even has permission to land. He tapped the edge of his cuff again. Simone's voice returned. "Zurich just flagged inbound from Hong Kong. They want access to the charter." "And?" "I told them we'll release it after landing." "Good," Malcolm replied. He paused, then added, "Let them sit in turbulence for a while." He folded the charter copies back into his folder. Outside, the clouds parted. They were descending now. But the industry? It was just starting to spiral. The plane landed 23 minutes behind schedule, but no one complained. Not the passengers, not the crew, not even the captain, whose voice cracked slightly when he announced, "We've been reassigned to a private gate due to operational realignment." Operational realignment? The first officer glanced at him sideways. Even she knew what that really meant. Malcolm Reddick was no longer a passenger. He was a trigger, and the industry had just been pulled. As soon as the plane touched down, 3 texts came in. Encrypted, silent, immediate. Zurich, we confirm total compliance freeze. Frankfurt, requesting access to charter. 5 airlines at risk of delisting. FAA, Washington. Do you wish to comment? Malcolm didn't respond to any of them. He just stood, straightened his jacket, grabbed his leather folder, and walked toward the front of the plane. Passengers moved aside without being asked. A few of them looked down, a few looked up, but no one dared meet his eyes directly. Not after what they'd seen unfold at 30,000 feet without a single word from him. Not after their phones started flooding with headlines. Sky Blue transatlantic locked out of Heathrow in mid-air shakeup. Global access score suspends 3 carriers in under 20 minutes. Source, ex-advisor to 5 nations behind sudden aviation lockout. The media hadn't said his name yet, but they would, soon. At the terminal, a Sky Blue PR manager waited with a nervous smile too wide for his own good. "Dr. Reddick, welcome. If you'd like, we have..." Malcolm walked past him without a glance. No time for PR handlers. Not when the head of the FAA was about to go on live television in under an hour. Inside the private lounge, a security officer stood by the door. He straightened when Malcolm approached. "Sir, you've been asked to wait for a representative of the airline." Malcolm gave a faint nod. "Of course," he said calmly. "They can take their time." But his eyes, those didn't wait. They scanned every monitor on the lounge wall. And sure enough, there it was. Breaking. Sky Blue CEO scheduled to speak live at 12 o'clock EST. A woman beside him, sipping white wine, leaned toward her friend. "Do you think he's the one who..." Her friend nudged her sharply. "Hush, don't say anything." Elsewhere, at Sky Blue headquarters, chaos reigned. Legal was screaming over logistics. It was scrambling to reverse route lock traces. The comms team was drafting 12 statements at once, all contradicting each other, and in the center of it all sat Ronald Kessler, the CEO himself. He looked like a man aging in real time, gray hair sprouting by the minute. He adjusted his tie for the 3rd time in front of the camera crew. "You're live in 90 seconds, sir." He nodded, swallowed hard, and whispered to his chief of staff, "Where the hell is Malcolm Reddick right now?" Back at the lounge, Malcolm sat down and unfolded the Global Passenger Integrity Charter on the table in front of him. He didn't need to read it. He'd written every clause by hand, but the gesture was symbolic. This was no longer a private battle. This was now global policy. A soft ping hit his phone. It was Simone. "Media line opened. Charter leak expected in 2 minutes. They want a statement." He replied with one word. "Wait." 12 o'clock p.m. sharp. The Sky Blue CEO appeared live on every major outlet. CNN, BBC, CBC, even Al Jazeera. Behind him stood a bland blue banner. "We fly with integrity." He began. "We want to assure all travelers that recent technical disruptions were not the result of any safety concerns. We are working with airport authorities to restore full operational access, and we are..." He paused. His comms director had just handed him a phone. His face paled. A breaking news banner flashed at the bottom of the screen. "Confirmed, Malcolm Reddick. Authorized Skygate route lock across 6 countries." He looked into the camera and blinked. This is the first I'm hearing of this action." People noticed. They always do. That microsecond of panic, that hesitation in his voice. It was the crack in the dam. And in that moment, Malcolm tapped his cufflink again. Simone's voice came through. "You're live in 3, 2... Suddenly the screen split. On one side, Sky Blue's fumbling CEO. On the other, Dr. Malcolm Reddick, seated calmly, professionally, in the airport lounge. Behind him, the open folder, the charter glowing beneath soft light. He spoke. One sentence only. "I wrote the system that locked your gates." The room fell into a hush. "I also wrote the policy that can unlock them." Pause. Silence. Then, the twist of the knife. "It's called the Global Passenger Integrity Charter, and I suggest you read it before your next press conference." Twitter exploded. So did LinkedIn. And Slack channels inside every major airline, every booking agency, every executive corridor from LAX to Geneva. Passengers at gates all over the world turned their phones toward the screens. The reaction was not one of fear. It was awe, not rage, but relief. Someone had finally stood up. Quietly, strategically, completely. At Sky Blue HQ, the boardroom went still. Ronald Kessler removed his earpiece and muttered, "Call him." Someone tried to argue. "Sir, I said call him." Malcolm's phone vibrated once. Unknown number. He answered. "This is Kessler." "I know." A pause. "I'd like to talk." "Now you want to talk," Malcolm said, calm as winter air. "When your stock's down 11% and 6 of your gates are frozen. I want to fix this." Malcolm let the moment breathe, then asked one question. "Are you ready to sign?" In Zurich, the charter had already been downloaded 14,000 times. In Tokyo, ANA's ethics director asked for a private line. In Washington, the FAA scheduled an emergency hearing for Friday. And in the lounge, Malcolm Reddick sat back, exhaled, and waited for the world to come to him. The press didn't sleep that night. Neither did the airlines, nor the stock markets. By 4 a.m. Eastern, shares of Sky Blue Transatlantic had dropped 19%, hitting a 2-year low. 3 hedge funds quietly offloaded over $740 million in holdings. Rumors swirled that 2 European banks had frozen aviation lines of credit entirely. And all of it traced back to a single signature not yet signed. The Global Passenger Integrity Charter. Malcolm Reddick didn't flinch. He never did. He was up at 5:30 a.m. drinking black coffee in a silent glass suite overlooking JFK's private hangar row. His posture was still. His eyes didn't blink much. And the charter folder, still open, still untouched, because he wasn't rushing anyone. He was waiting for desperation to do the work. At 6:42 a.m., Simone Durand stepped into the room. She wore dark navy, hair pulled back, tablet in hand. Geneva just pulled all 6 cooperative airports from the Skygate Nexus. No inbound from Sky Blue, Transatlas, or Vero Links. And Tokyo? What about Tokyo? Malcolm asked. Simone paused, then said softly, "ANA just released a statement. They're adopting the charter, effective immediately." Malcolm's lips didn't quite smile, but his eyes, they flickered. 1. By 8 a.m., the dominoes started to fall faster. Canada's Transport Ministry issued an emergency ethics compliance review. Singapore's Civil Aviation Authority requested an urgent meeting. Emirates quietly emailed a 3-line message to Malcolm's private inbox. Willing to sign, discreetly if needed. The charter, once just a document, was now a gatekeeper, and anyone without it was being locked out. Back at Sky Blue's Manhattan Tower, CEO Ronald Kessler hadn't slept either. He had a new suit on, but an old panic behind his eyes. His lawyers were hoarse. His PR director had thrown up. The board had just sent a memo. If this isn't resolved by 2 p.m., we begin looking at alternatives. Alternatives meant him. At exactly 9:17 a.m., his assistant whispered, "He's on the line." "Put him through." Malcolm's voice came clear, no noise behind him, just wait. "Ronald." "Dr. Reddick," Kessler replied too quickly, too formally. "I want to say—" "You had your moment," Malcolm interrupted. "What's your decision?" Kessler hesitated. We're ready to discuss terms." "No terms," Malcolm said. "Only signatures." "And if I don't?" Malcolm didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "The FAA hearing is in 4 hours. By then, I'll have 5 more signatories, and you'll be the man who refused to join the one thing that could save this industry." Silence. Then, "Send me the charter." Across the industry, screens buzzed. One by one, headlines updated. ANA signs Global Ethics Charter. First airline to join Reddick-led reform. Sky Blue CEO in private talks with Malcolm Reddick. FAA to host emergency ethics summit today. Will Reddick testify? In Washington, inside the FAA's stone-walled chamber, the energy was electric. Reporters elbowed each other for seats. Airline reps looked like they were walking into a tribunal, and at the center, 3 long oak tables, one left empty. For Dr. Malcolm Reddick. He arrived 15 minutes late. Deliberately, he walked with the steady grace of a man who didn't need to speak loudly to be heard. A woman from Alaska Airlines stood as he passed, nodded once. A young black pilot placed his cap over his heart, and an elderly woman, former senator, whispered to her aide, "He reminds me of Thurgood Marshall." The chairman of the hearing banged the gavel. We now open the emergency session on ethical violations, systemic bias, and global access protocol failures. Present is Dr. Malcolm Reddick, designer of the Skygate Nexus and current administrator of the Global Passenger Integrity Charter. Malcolm didn't nod. He just placed the folder on the table, opened it, and let it sit there. "What are you proposing, Dr. Reddick?" asked the chair. He looked at her. "Accountability." "And enforcement?" He turned the folder toward them. "Every airline that signs this will be subject to the same ethics scoring system used by Skygate, applied in real time across all operational sectors. And if they refuse, they lose access to everything." The room went still. It was one of those moments that didn't need music to feel cinematic. The older board members whispered. One younger rep from a low-cost carrier scoffed. "You don't have that kind of leverage." Malcolm looked directly at him. "Then explain why your gates just locked you out of Zurich." Simone, seated quietly behind him, slid a tablet to the FAA chair. Real-time visual. Red flags across 14 airports. Sky blue marked as non-compliant. Vero links. Pending. Transatlas. Suspended. Anna. Green. Signed. Full access restored. The FAA chair swallowed hard. This could restructure the entire global system. Malcolm replied simply, "That's the point." Back at Sky Blue headquarters, Kessler got the text from his board. "Sign, now, on camera." And so he did. Shaky hands, national broadcast, trembling words. "We, Sky Blue Transatlantic, fully endorse and adopt the Global Passenger Integrity Charter." He barely got the sentence out before the screen cut to Malcolm, still seated at the FAA hearing. He signed nothing. He just nodded. Once. That was enough. The final sequence was fast. FAA voted unanimously to require charter compliance for all international routes within U.S. airspace. Malcolm was appointed head of the Ethics Enforcement Task Group, reporting directly to global regulators. Within 72 hours, 7 airlines signed. Within 1 week, Malcolm's name was trending next to MLK, Thurgood Marshall, and Rosa Parks. Not because he protested loudly, but because he rewrote the system, quietly, permanently. They called it the silence. No press releases, no new commercials, no customer emails from the airline's marketing teams. Just silence. Because that morning, 3 major airlines, Sky Blue, Transatlas, and Vero Links, woke up to something far worse than a PR disaster. A public ethics score. At exactly 7 o'clock a.m., the Skygate Nexus Live dashboard opened to the public for the first time. Until then, it had been a private regulatory tool, used by infrastructure directors and compliance officers. Now, every passenger could type in an airline's name and see one single score. The Global Passenger Integrity Rating, color-coded, updated hourly. Green, compliant. Yellow, under review. Red, non-compliant. And beside it, the violations log. Every unethical incident, every demographic disparity, every complaint filed by flight attendants, passengers, or airport staff, time-stamped and verified. Within 6 minutes of launch, Sky Blue Airlines, status red, 42 active violations. Transatlas, status red, 31 active violations. Vero Links, status yellow, underboard review. And at the top of the dashboard, ANA, Airlines, green, charter signatory. Passenger ethics score, 97.4. Across Twitter and Reddit, hashtags exploded. Fly with ethics, #no more. Red flights, @Reddick. Reform TikTok creators ran 30-second ethics checks before booking their trips. News anchors hosted live dashboard readings like weather forecasts. Here in the Northeast Corridor, we're seeing major turbulence for Sky Blue with a score of 61.2 and dropping. It wasn't a PR crisis. It was a consumer revolt. Inside Malcolm Reddick's office, the mood was still quiet. Simone scrolled through the dashboard metrics. Over 320,000 users in the first hour, she said. Ethics scores trending as top search on Google and Bing. Malcolm didn't blink. They'll panic, he said calmly. They already are, she replied. Sky Blue's board just called for a private session. Vero Links canceled 5 international routes this morning. He nodded once. And TransAtlas? They tried to sue. Malcolm almost smiled. Let me guess, in the Southern District? Simone tilted her head. They withdrew the case an hour ago. Judge Owen cited public risk interest. At Sky Blue's downtown tower, chaos didn't even begin to describe it. 3 high-ranking execs resigned. 6 major corporate clients, finance firms and consulting groups, canceled their bulk flight contracts. And worse, a group of disabled passengers posted a viral clip on YouTube of their mistreatment on a Sky Blue flight just 3 weeks earlier. The caption was brutal. Now we know why their ethics score is red. That video hit 12 million views in 10 hours. By noon, Sky Blue's customer service call center was flooded. Is your airline safe for minorities? Do you allow people with disabilities to pre-board? Why do you still employ a crew member who shoved a veteran last year? The agents had no script for this, because the truth was, they couldn't hide behind silence anymore. Meanwhile, TransAtlas thought they had a strategy. Their CEO, Martin Langston, went on CNBC Live. He wore a blue tie, had a smile prepared. We take the concerns of our passengers seriously. Our teams are committed to reviewing every claim. The anchor leaned forward. Then why haven't you signed the charter? Langston's smile faded a fraction. We are in active discussions. I'm sorry, the anchor cut in. Your ethics score just dropped again. It's now 64.8, with 17 unresolved racial profiling incidents flagged in the last 48 hours. Langston blinked. The anchor didn't. Dr. Reddick said he would give the industry the rope and let them hang themselves. Langston didn't finish the interview. Back in Malcolm's office, Simone handed him a sealed envelope. What's this? He asked. Letter from the African Business Travel Alliance, she said. They're pledging $300 million in ticketing support, only to airlines who score green for 6 months straight. Malcolm opened it slowly, read it, then looked up. It's starting, he said. Later that afternoon, Malcolm met with his core legal team. In the center of the table, the unreleased framework titled GAS Protocol, the Global Access Score. The next phase, where ethics didn't just live on dashboards, they determined which airlines could access the most profitable routes. Simone tapped her pen against her notebook. We'll need to finalize the thresholds, she said. Once the airlines realize they'll lose Asia-Pacific lanes based on behavior, they'll panic again. Malcolm nodded. They should. He stood and walked toward the window. New York skyline. Planes in the distance. Power moving through silence. He turned back. We're not punishing them, he said. We're just making the cost of injustice visible. At 4:18 p.m., a memo hit every major airline CEO's inbox. Effective next quarter, ethics scores below 75.0 will trigger automatic reroute restrictions across 21 federal airports. Compliance review will be conducted every 48 hours. GS protocol will go live within 10 business days. There was no option to opt out, only to improve or be left behind. Sky Blue called an emergency board meeting. CEO Ronald Kessler entered sweating. I'll sign, he said. The charter, the GAS protocol, all of it. Too late, one board member replied. We're moving forward without you. He froze. What? Another member slid a packet across the table. Dr. Reddick's name is on page 1. He's not replacing you. He's auditing the entire structure. Kessler sat down. Hard. By nightfall, passengers were reshaping the industry with a single click. And Malcolm? He wasn't on television. He wasn't even on social media. He was in a quiet room, finalizing a document. The last page of the Global Passenger Integrity Charter, where the public version would include ethics score, access by airline crew member misconduct records, passenger discrimination logs, monthly industry-wide rankings. He picked up a pen, signed it. Tomorrow, it would go live. And the world would fly differently. By dawn the next day, 3 airlines still hadn't signed the charter, and they wanted the world to know why. Skynova, Aerolux, Jetstream Pacific. In a joint press conference streamed across business networks, their executives stood at sleek podiums with confident smiles and carefully rehearsed statements. "We believe in fairness," said Elena Hirsch, CEO of Jetstream. "But we don't believe in giving one man the authority to decide how we operate." Behind her, a slide flashed. Airline freedom, artificial scores. Applause followed, scripted, polite, hollow. By 10 a.m., hashtags were trending. Hashtag no to gate control, now Reddick overreach master passengers deserve freedom. But something was off. The comments weren't buying it. This the same Jetstream that kicked off a deaf woman last month? Skynova still hasn't explained the veteran incident in March. Y'all scared because you know your ethics score is trash. The algorithm wasn't on their side. Neither was the public. Because while they were trying to brand Malcolm as a dictator, his silence was more powerful than their microphones. Inside his office, Malcolm watched the live stream with the same expression he wore when his coffee was slightly too cold. Mildly curious, entirely unfazed. Simone stood behind him, tablet in hand. "They're testing you," she said. "They're testing themselves," he replied. He didn't flinch when Jetstream's executive team called Skygate a surveillance state. He didn't blink when a Skynova VP claimed the ethics dashboard was racially biased against white passengers. And he didn't say a word when Aerolux promised to launch their own integrity program, independent and transparent. Because he knew exactly what would happen next. By noon, they had made their move. A 17-page anonymous blog post, published on a fringe travel site, went viral. The hidden agenda behind the ethics score and gore. Reddick's global power grab. It accused Malcolm of everything from insider trading to secretly owning shares in ANA Airlines, one of the only airlines rated green. They used old photos, took quotes out of context, invented emails, and then they pushed it through paid bots and whisper campaigns. For a moment, it worked. Cable pundits started asking questions. Is Malcolm Reddick just another corporate opportunist? Who's really behind the J's protocol? Why are we trusting one man with international access control? The attacks were designed to destabilize him, to strip away his image of calm, thoughtful reform, and replace it with a caricature, manipulative, power-hungry, dangerous. But they miscalculated 2 things. First, Malcolm Reddick never chased the spotlight. Second, the passengers remembered everything. Within hours, a flood of video testimonies hit the internet. A black woman described being told to move back to economy on a Jetstream flight, even though her boarding pass said first class. A young veteran with a prosthetic leg shared how Skynova crew rolled their eyes when he asked for pre-boarding. A single mother with an autistic child posted surveillance footage from Aerolux, where a flight attendant mocked her son's sounds during takeoff. Their posts ended with the same sentence: "That's why I believe in the charter." By sunset, the smear campaign was in ashes. Then came the letter from 42 former airline staff, pilots, attendants, gate agents, who had been fired or silenced for reporting discrimination inside Jetstream, Skynova, and Aerolux. They published a joint open letter. Dr. Reddick isn't a threat to the industry. He's our only chance at saving it. It was signed with all their names, and 4 of them attached internal audio recordings. At CNN headquarters, producers were already scrambling. They reached out to Malcolm's office for an interview. He declined. Then, The Atlantic. He declined. 60 Minutes. Declined again. Instead, he uploaded one short video. No background music. Just him. Simple shirt. Calm voice. This isn't about power. It's about dignity. I've walked through terminals where people looked at me like I didn't belong. Now I'm helping to build one where everyone does. You don't have to trust me. Just watch the data. It doesn't lie. 3 sentences in, the comment section exploded. That's how you speak truth. No cap, this man is a legend. I was skeptical, now I'm all in. The video hit 10 million views in 14 hours. By the next morning, something shifted. Jetstream's own data scientist resigned and leaked their real ethics report. It showed scores had been red flagged months earlier, and leadership buried it. The final nail came from inside Sky Nova. An anonymous exec released email threads showing they deliberately manipulated gate assignment logs to avoid undesirable passengers in premium zones. That same day, Sky Nova stock fell 12%. Their CEO, Monica Shields, stepped down in a quiet Friday memo. Meanwhile, a senator from Massachusetts called for a Senate hearing. If airlines are targeting passengers based on race or disability, we need to know. And if Skygate is the only system exposing it, we should listen, not attack it. That night, Malcolm stood alone at an empty terminal in JFK. Not out of ceremony, not for drama, but because he still liked to walk the spaces where this all started. He remembered the first time he was told he couldn't sit up front. The first time someone called him out of place. Now, he was building a system that said, you belong, not because you're rich, not because you're powerful, but because you're human. Behind him, a janitor pushing a mop cart paused. You're that guy, right? The man asked. Malcolm turned. I guess so. The man smiled. My daughter's autistic. Last week we flew Anna. First time nobody made her feel like a problem. Malcolm nodded softly. The man added, thanks for whatever it is you're doing. Malcolm looked out toward the runway. I'm just clearing the path. Capitol Hill wasn't built for silence. It was built for speeches, for sound bites, for moments when someone said something loud enough to get quoted by 5 networks in under a minute. And yet, when Malcolm Reddick walked into the Senate hearing room, he didn't say a word. Not at first. He sat down, calm and unbothered, across from senators who weren't sure whether to treat him as a threat or a visionary. His presence disrupted the room in ways they couldn't measure, not because he demanded attention, but because he didn't need to. He was the conversation. Senator Grant from Texas tapped his mic. Let's come to order. Malcolm adjusted the single document in front of him. No stack of papers, no assistants hovering nearby. Just him and the truth. The hearing was officially titled, Passenger Rights in a Digital Age, Ethics, Algorithms, and Accountability in Air Travel. But everyone knew what it really was, the Reddick hearing. Because in the past 3 weeks, his Skygate Nexus protocol had grounded planes, embarrassed airlines, exposed racial and disability bias, and triggered resignations from 2 CEOs. Now Congress wanted answers. The public wanted more, and the airlines wanted revenge. Senator Delgado, sharp and unapologetically skeptical, opened the questioning. Dr. Reddick, do you consider yourself the final authority on who gets to fly? Malcolm leaned forward, his voice steady. No, Senator. I consider myself the person who built a system that holds airlines accountable when they forget who has the right to fly. Delgado smiled thinly. You understand the concern here. One system, one man, one root authority. Malcolm nodded. Yes, that's why I'm here today, to decentralize it. The room shifted. Reporters scribbled. Cameras clicked. What do you mean by decentralize? Senator Barnes asked. Malcolm opened his folder and slid a document across the table. This is the Global Passenger Integrity Accord. It's a binding framework designed to be overseen by an independent international ethics council, not me. I've drafted it, but I don't want to own it." Gasps rippled. He continued, "The accord includes 3 core mandates: real-time passenger treatment monitoring through anonymized AI-driven scoring, mandatory ethics training for crew and staff, reviewed quarterly, a transparent appeal system for passengers to challenge discriminatory actions within 24 hours. Delgado flipped through the pages. "This would be industry-wide?" "It already is, Senator. 18 airlines have signed. 4 more sign next week. 3 are still resisting, but they won't for long." The committee paused. They weren't expecting surrender of power. They were expecting defensiveness, ego. What they got was structure, strategy, and control through relinquishment. Malcolm didn't need to cling to Skygate because he knew what was coming next. The public wouldn't settle for less now. Outside the hearing room, a protest was gathering, though not against Malcolm. Passengers held signs. "We stand with Reddick. Accountability is not control. I deserve my seat, period." The TV crews caught everything, and they also caught the moment when a former flight attendant, fired last year after reporting repeated bias in Jetstream's international routes, walked into the hearing quietly and sat in the gallery. She wasn't on the official list, but she brought something no one expected: a recording. Midway through the session, Senator Holbrook, who had long defended airline deregulation, took aim. "Mr. Reddick, isn't it true that some of these scores your system generates can be gamed? That they rely on algorithms that might not account for human context?" Malcolm didn't flinch. "They can't be gamed, Senator. That's why they're hated. And yes, no system is perfect, but ours flags patterns, not moments." He glanced at the former attendant in the gallery. "Actually, if the committee permits, there's someone here who can illustrate the difference between a moment and a pattern." The room paused. Holbrook looked annoyed, but Senator Grant leaned in. "Proceed." The woman stood, walked slowly forward, and placed a small device on the table. It played a muffled recording of a crew meeting. "Just keep the aisle clear. If we get another solo black traveler in first, try to upgrade them backward. Just make it look like an accident." There was silence. No one could argue against that pattern now. When the hearing resumed, Malcolm brought it home. "I built Skygate not to punish airlines, but to protect people like her, people like me, and your constituents." He stood. "I don't want the power. I just want the rules to finally apply to everyone the same way. Every seat, every gate, every human." He walked out as the cameras rolled. By nightfall, the accord had gained 10 million new online signatures. 25 international airports pledged compliance, and 3 airlines, the ones still resisting, had their stock downgraded after ethics fund managers pulled $680 million in investment capital. That wasn't Malcolm's doing. That was the market deciding what fairness looked like. At home, Malcolm poured himself a drink and stood at his window. He didn't feel victorious. He felt necessary. And that was heavier. His assistant called. "They want you on MSNBC, and the White House just reached out." He paused. "I'm not a politician." She replied, "They know. That's why they're calling." Across the country, in thousands of airports, a quiet shift began. Training manuals were rewritten, hiring protocols reviewed, passenger complaint systems digitized with real-time escalation. The Malcolm Protocol was no longer a theory. It was industry standard, and it was just beginning. The sun hadn't even cracked the horizon yet, but Malcolm Reddick was already awake. Not from nerves, from purpose. He stood barefoot in the kitchen of his DC townhouse, sipping black coffee, eyes scanning the quiet city skyline. Today wasn't about power. It wasn't about headlines. It was about clarity. By noon, he would release something no airline had ever wanted the public to see: the SkyTrust transparency layer. 9:00 a.m. The launch room was quiet, nearly sterile. No banners, no media circus. Just a small circle of engineers, ethicists, and legal analysts watching a single screen. Simone Durand, his chief integrity officer, stood beside him. "Once we do this, there's no walking it back." "Exactly," Malcolm said, "and it's about damn time." At 9:03, with a single biometric tap, Malcolm activated the SkyTrust layer. Within seconds, a cascade of data flooded the global aviation network. Every major airline's passenger ethics score was now live, real-time, immutable, visible to the world. What is the SkyTrust transparency layer? It's a public dashboard built on top of Skygate Nexus that shows how airlines treat passengers based on demographics, anonymized patterns, complaint-to-resolution ratios, crew behavioral scoring, verified passenger ratings. But most importantly, it let passengers rate the airlines back. For the first time in aviation history, the power dynamic flipped. By 10:15 a.m., the ripple effects were immediate. Sky Blue Transatlantic, whose CEO had once called Malcolm a dangerous idealist, plummeted from a 91 to a 68. Trans-Atlas Airlines dropped from 88 to 61. Virolinx dipped below 50, now tagged with the red ethically non-compliant banner. Airlines panicked, executives scrambled, shareholders started dialing. But Malcolm wasn't taking calls. He was already preparing for Phase 2. At the same time, at JFK Terminal 5, a video went viral. A white woman had filmed herself being moved to economy because a black father and his autistic son were upgraded by staff. "I paid for comfort. Why is he up here?" she snapped. The video ended with the flight attendant calmly replying, "Because our new ethics system said you weren't qualified." #SkyTrust wins exploded. It trended for 48 hours straight. By noon, Malcolm's inbox was flooded with stories. A grandmother in Detroit wrote, "I've flown 40 years. First time I saw staff treat a Muslim teenager like a human being." A gay couple in Houston posted, "Crew apologized to us before we even complained." An Asian American woman shared, "Pilot personally came to check on me after hearing about microaggressions from another passenger." The system wasn't perfect, but it was working. Back at his office, Simone handed him a flash report. 3 more airlines signed on voluntarily, European ones. They don't want to be last. Malcolm smiled. Nobody wants to be the last domino. She nodded. "You ready for the next wave?" "Skyline's Disclosure Act," he said. "Yeah, let's go public." At 2:30 p.m., Malcolm went live on the SkyTrust channel. No fanfare, no teleprompter, just a plain backdrop and one mic. "Today isn't about revenge," he began. "It's about repair. For decades, you've been asked to trust airlines that didn't earn it. That time is over." He paused. "You now have access to what we've seen behind closed doors, how they treat people when no one is watching, and now, everyone is watching." His tone was calm, but the message hit hard. This isn't just transparency, it's accountability. Within 12 hours, 4 airlines launched internal ethics training revamps. 2 airports added SkyTrust check-in screens. 1 union threatened to strike unless their airline raised its ethics score. By nightfall, SkyTrust became the most searched term on Google, and the FAA? They quietly added SkyTrust compliance as a recommended best practice. They wouldn't admit it yet. But the industry had changed. Malcolm sat at his desk long after midnight, staring at the global dashboard. Green, yellow, red. Airlines moving up, others crashing. He clicked on a score. Sky Blue, 68, still falling. He exhaled. "Not enough," he whispered. Simone walked in, jacket draped over her shoulder. "You did it." "No," Malcolm said. "We made them look in the mirror. What they do now? That's up to them." She smirked. "That mirror has teeth." Outside, airports buzzed. But this time the buzz wasn't about delays. It was about dignity. And that was the point all along. Malcolm didn't need applause. He just needed change. And now, Change had a dashboard. SkyTrust was live. The email hit at 7:41 a.m. sharp. Subject line, urgent. Senate oversight hearing. Request for testimony. Malcolm barely sipped his coffee before Simone burst into his office, eyes wide. "You're not going to believe this," she said, handing him the tablet. He read the subject once, then again. "They want me on the Hill. They want SkyTrust on the record. This Thursday." Malcolm leaned back in his chair, silent for a moment. "Good. Let's make it count." By 9:30, his legal team was already assembling briefing documents. But this wasn't just a matter of protocol anymore. It was about policy. Because overnight, 3 more major airlines had dropped below the 60-point ethics threshold. One of them, Atlantic Bridge, had quietly canceled a $410 million aircraft order that was tied to an international ethics bond. The dominoes were falling faster than anyone anticipated. Elsewhere in D.C., the aviation lobby wasn't taking it well. Inside the conference room at Aero United's headquarters, panic hung in the air like bad cologne. "This SkyTrust system is destabilizing the entire industry," barked Hal Emerson, VP of Strategic Ops. "We're getting buried in public pressure." "Then do better," muttered their chief PR officer. The room went silent. The truth? They didn't hate SkyTrust because it was unfair. They hated it because it was right. On Capitol Hill, Senate Chairwoman Denise Langford reviewed her notes. She had watched Malcolm's full SkyTrust live stream 3 times. Each word, each pause. She'd met a lot of CEOs. Most of them deflected or danced. Malcolm Reddick? He didn't flinch. She turned to her aide. "Make sure he gets full airtime. I want his voice heard." The day of the hearing arrived fast. Malcolm wore a deep navy suit. No tie. No cufflinks this time. Not because he wasn't taking it seriously, but because he wanted to be readable, not untouchable. He entered the chamber with Simone and 2 core members of the SkyTrust engineering team. Cameras snapped. Reporters whispered. On the other side of the room sat the CEOs of 4 airlines, all dressed immaculately, flanked by lawyers and PR specialists. The balance of power had shifted, but not everyone had caught up. Senator Langford gavelled the hearing to order. "Today, we're here to discuss the implications of the SkyTrust transparency layer, its legality, its impact, and its necessity." She turned toward Malcolm. "Mr. Reddick, you may begin." Malcolm stood, calm and clear. "Madam Chair, members of the committee, I didn't set out to burn down the aviation industry. I set out to clean its windows." A ripple of tension moved through the room. "I've worked with airlines for over 2 decades. I know the good people in this space, but I also know what happens when behavior hides behind bureaucracy." He gestured to a live screen beside him. Real-time SkyTrust data lit up, scores shifting, flags blinking. This isn't a gotcha tool. It's a mirror, and for once, it can't be turned off when it gets inconvenient. One senator raised an eyebrow. "Mr. Reddick, critics argue that publicizing ethics scores damages investor confidence, that it could collapse companies." Malcolm nodded. "Good. Maybe they should collapse." Gasps, then murmurs. If a company depends on silence to stay solvent, then it was never stable to begin with. Senator Langford leaned forward. "What would you say to the people who think you're weaponizing transparency for personal gain?" Malcolm didn't hesitate. "I gave up 80% of my shares in Crestwing Ventures the day SkyTrust went live. I don't profit from this. I protect it." "And who audits you, Mr. Reddick?" Simone stood, handing out sealed reports. "We do," she said. SkyTrust includes a self-audit algorithm overseen by an independent ethics council chaired by 3 civil rights leaders and 2 former regulators. The room quieted. No one saw that coming. Backstage, one of the airline CEOs clenched his jaw. "This guy's going to ruin us." But another CEO, older, slower to speak, turned to him. "No, he's giving us a chance to save ourselves. If we don't take it, then we deserve to be ruined." After 3 hours of testimony, the hearing concluded with a stunning turn. Senator Langford announced, "This committee will introduce legislation requiring all federally partnered airlines to meet a minimum Sky Trust score for continued access to strategic airspace." The cameras went wild. So did Wall Street. Back in the hallway, reporters swarmed Malcolm. "Mr. Reddick, did you expect this level of support?" He smiled slightly. "I expected pushback, but I hoped, maybe foolishly, that decency still meant something in this town." Then he stepped into the elevator and disappeared. That night, the Sky Trust homepage crashed from traffic overload. 1 million new users logged on to rate their past flights. Ethics became the new currency of trust. And trust? It had never been so valuable. Somewhere in a quiet office, a young intern at an airline compliance department stared at her screen. She scrolled through the live passenger comments. "This was the first time I wasn't afraid to ask for help. Crew asked me if I had accessibility needs without making me feel broken. I finally felt seen." She blinked and smiled. Maybe it was working. Meanwhile, Malcolm returned to his townhouse. Shoes off, phone off. He stepped out onto the balcony, looking at the city lights humming below. Simone's message popped on his secure device. "Senate vote likely within 14 days. You ready?" He typed back, "Born ready." Then closed the screen, let the breeze hit his face, and finally exhaled. The system hadn't changed overnight, but it had cracked. And sometimes, that's all revolution needs. Just one crack. The rest follows. 2 weeks passed. 2 weeks of round-the-clock media coverage, op-eds, think pieces, and a level of public engagement the airline industry had never seen. And then, it happened. The Passenger Ethics Accountability Act, backed by bipartisan support, passed 82-18 on the Senate floor. It was swift, it was loud, and it was historic. For the first time, airlines could lose federal certification not just for mechanical failures, but for ethical ones. The FAA, ICAO, and even international hubs like Heathrow and Changi signed on to enforce a global passenger integrity standard centered on one system, Sky Trust. By the following Monday, Sky Trust's compliance layer was no longer optional. It was embedded into licensing, flight approval workflows, even bonus structures for executive leadership at major airlines. More than 17 international carriers were placed under Phase 1 remediation for failing to meet baseline dignity benchmarks. 4 US-based airlines announced emergency retraining programs. 1 filed for bankruptcy. At the same time, the FAA released its first transparency index under the new law. It ranked airlines not by cost or speed, but by ethics score, grievance response time, and verified passenger dignity satisfaction. At the top of the list, Meridian Air, a small, mid-range airline from Denver that had quietly adopted SkyTrust voluntarily 6 months prior. At the bottom, Sky Blue Transatlantic, the same airline that denied Malcolm his seat. They lost access to 6 federal gates and 3 international landing strips. Their stock tumbled 37% in 2 days. Their CEO resigned. Meanwhile, inside the Pentagon, procurement officers met to adjust future defense contracts. "From this point forward," one general announced, "all defense travel will use certified ethical carriers. Anything less is a national liability." Malcolm's framework had done more than protect passengers. It had redefined security, transparency, and trust as measurable infrastructure. And Malcolm? He kept his distance. No interviews, no panels, no victory laps. He sat in his home office in DC, watching a new onboarding tutorial play across the SkyTrust admin panel. It was narrated not by him, but by a young Latina cabin crew trainer who'd once messaged him after the live stream, thanking him for making silence expensive. She was now Director of Ethics Culture at Horizon Airlines. He smiled. That's how you know something real has changed, when you're no longer needed in the room, because the room knows what to do now. That same week, a letter arrived. Handwritten. No return address. Inside was a short note. My father always said, "It's just the way things are." You proved him wrong. Thank you for teaching my sons to expect better. Below it, a business card from an airline pilot, folded into quarters. A keepsake. Malcolm didn't need to know who it was from. He just tucked it into a drawer next to his old boarding pass from that Frankfurt flight. Seat 1A, the one they said he didn't belong in. And yet here he was, not just sitting in 1A now, but redesigning the whole plane, not for himself, but for everyone who ever sat in silence, thinking it was safer that way. Down the block, a young woman, 26, black, corporate traveler, tapped open her boarding app. It buzzed once, then displayed a small green badge. Carrier Sky Trust compliant, 93.6. She smiled. First class. Not because she had to prove anything, but because no one could question it anymore. Not without the system answering for her. And somewhere across the ocean, a mother traveling with her autistic child was greeted with a flight crew that actually asked how to communicate best before takeoff. She cried in row 14, not because something bad had happened, but because, for the first time, it hadn't. In this new sky, ethics had altitude, and dignity, it had teeth. The sun hadn't even cleared the skyline when Malcolm walked through the entrance of Gate 22. No security escort, no private terminal, just him, a simple gray carry-on, and a quiet smile. He looked up at the digital board. Flight 306, DC to San Francisco, on time. Beside it, a green badge pulsed softly. Sky Trust certified, 96.2. Passengers passed by with coffees and carry-ons, never guessing who he was. That was the point. Not recognition, restoration. He took his seat, 2A this time. Not because it mattered, but because it didn't have to anymore. Across the aisle, a flight attendant made her way down the cabin, greeting passengers with the kind of warmth that wasn't trained. It was chosen. She paused at Malcolm's row. "Good morning, sir. Let me know if there's anything you need. We're proud to fly you." She didn't flinch, didn't hesitate, didn't look at him like he didn't belong. Malcolm gave a small nod. "Thank you, and thank you for being here." She smiled. "It's not just a job anymore. It's personal." Then she moved on. 10 minutes before departure, a mother with 2 young kids struggled to stow her bags in row 5. A man in business class stood up and helped her without being asked. No eye rolls, no sighs. The small things were changing, everywhere. The captain's voice came over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're proud to share that our flight today is part of the Sky Trust Verified Network. What that means is, you can expect not just safety and service, but dignity. From takeoff to touchdown." A few passengers clapped softly. It wasn't theater anymore. It was culture. As the plane taxied down the runway, Malcolm leaned back and stared out the window. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about numbers or systems. He was thinking about his mother. How she used to dress him in a little clip-on tie when they flew together. Said it would help people see him right. How she always triple-checked his ticket so no one could question his seat. How she once whispered, "They don't know who you'll be one day, but I do." He smiled to himself. She was right. 30 minutes into the flight, Simone sent a text. "FAA just approved the full adoption package. It's official. The Global Passenger Integrity Charter is now part of federal code." Below it, a photo attachment. A screenshot of the Skygate Nexus dashboard. Green across the board. No violations, no delays. A system, once invisible, now running as the new normal. He didn't reply, just closed the message and looked out at the clouds. 2 rows back, a teenage boy, maybe 16, tapped the Sky Trust app on his phone. He watched the crew quietly, then typed in a live comment. "Flight attendant asked if I was nervous flying alone. First time someone's ever done that. I feel safe." It posted instantly, logged into the global layer. One more ripple in the sea of change. An hour later, the landing gear touched down in San Francisco. Malcolm didn't rush to disembark. He waited, let the aisle clear. When he finally stepped into the jet bridge, a crew supervisor waited with a simple envelope. "We were asked to give this to you when you landed." Malcolm opened it. Inside was a boarding pass. Seat 1A. No name, no flight number. Just the words handwritten across it. "You reset the altitude. Now we all get to fly higher." He folded it once, slipped it into his wallet. No speech, no nod. Just silence. The kind of silence that says, "Mission complete." Outside the terminal, a little girl held her mother's hand, eyes wide as she looked up at the planes. "Mommy, can I sit by the window next time?" Her mom laughed. "Of course. You can sit wherever you want, baby." And this time, they both believed it. Back in D.C., in a small glass display on Malcolm's bookshelf, sat two items: a faded boarding pass from a flight that changed everything, and a small brass plaque with 5 engraved words, "Fair skies begin with truth." He never told anyone who gave it to him. Some things aren't meant to be explained, only earned. And somewhere, on 1,000 flights happening at this very moment, people of every color, class, age, and belief are finally flying the way they were always meant to, with respect, without apology, because one man was told he didn't belong in first class and chose to rewrite the entire system instead. Have you ever been treated like you didn't belong just because of how you look? What would you have done in Malcolm's place? Tell us where you're watching from and what dignity means to you.